Good morning, River Landing. Here we are in Pinehurst in this nice little area. As always, when we're outside, sometimes there's some noises, but they're working on the NPR today, and I had promised hands and feet yoga, so here we are. We're going to do it right here in this fun location. So glad you joined me. A lot of times we forget how important our hands and our feet are to the daily living things that we do, and so I thought we would just focus on those today, maybe do a 5 or 6 minute stretch right at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. You should have your shoes off, just like I do here. And you could do this in stocking feet if you'd rather, but we're not going to get out of the chair, so it's perfectly fine to just work on it right here. So for some of us, we're going to start with our feet. We're going to take that foot and we're going to bring it up over here. And for some of us, it might be hard to get to this spot. So maybe you have a significant other that could do some of this exercise for you. So you could get a little foot massage right along with it. So first of all, just take a look at your foot. Take a look at the other foot. Notice the color of your feet. Mine got a little full of stuff, so I'm wiping off some of the pine needles and things. But let's sit up nice and tall, and we're going to start with a simple stretch for our feet. So we'll stretch and then we'll strengthen. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our hand and we're just going to stretch those toes backward. Good, and we're just going to hold it here for just a little bit. So if you have plantar fasciitis, if you have Achilles tendonitis, or any of those foot disorders, these are great stretches for that. Other things that you could do is take a tennis ball and roll your feet, or an iced water bottle and roll your feet, so that would work as well. Good. Now let's take that foot, I'm going to stretch it the other way, and I'm going to actually take my opposite hand and pull that toe away so I can get a good stretch right here through the front of that ankle and through my toes. So make sure that we're still trying to sit up nice and tall. Feeling that stretch, get all the way to that pinky toe. Good, and now we're just going to take that and we're going to rock it. So we're going to go back and forth, and back and forth. You can come on through, back and forth. I know I'm in a public area. Back and forth right here. Good. Just working on a little chair yoga. Good. All right. Now let's take that foot. We're going to rock it here, roll it, like you do when you're doing those ankle rolls, but this time we have our arm. That's going to be a little bit different. Oh, I wish you could be here with me. I have a beautiful hummingbird right above my head. And then here's the other way. Good. Go the other way. Good. Oh. Good. Doesn't that feel good? Good. All right. So now that we've done that, I want you to take both of your hands. One is going to be on the top, one on the bottom, and we're going to grab our foot, and I'm just going to lift it here so that you can see. And I'm going to push and pull. So I'm going to pull forward and push back, and I'm going to rock it, starting at the bottom of my big toe, right at the base of the toe, pushing and pulling. Good. And then I'm going to slowly bring my fingers down to each metatarsal, and I'm going to push and pull. And you might feel a little crack, a little crunch. That's perfectly normal. Our feet, we don't even realize it, get little micro cracks. So I'm just pushing and pulling. And maybe coming down to the pad of the foot a little bit. And that push, that little crack and crunch you feel are just little calcium deposits that grow because your body sometimes will make extra calcium near the bones if it thinks it needs to. Maybe you had a little micro fracture or something like that. And so your body makes those little extra calcium deposits, and what you're actually doing is somewhat, if you're feeling that crack and the crunch, we're kind of snapping some of that out of there. So we're making that foot more flexible. Good. All right. All right, now let's go ahead and sit up tall. We're going to take our opposite hand of the foot that's crossed over. And I know this is going to seem silly, and we're not doing this to crack our toes or do anything silly, but we're actually doing this to relieve any pressure that might be in our toes. So we're going to grab the toe and we're going to shake it. And as we shake it, we're going to let the hand kind of slide off the toe. Good, so do that again. The big toe, we're shaking, letting it slide off, pulling, outward. It might crack, it might crunch, but it shouldn't hurt. Good. Now, let's go to the next toe. Same thing, shake it, pull it, let the hand slide off. Good. And go all the way to that pinky toe. Now, some of us could have things in our feet called neuromas, which are little nodules that are very painful. Good. This helps with that as well, but not the neuroma nodule is something that a doctor needs to look at usually. Good. But this can help stretch past a certain point or give you some relief. Good. And then a little pull from the toe. Good. Someday, if you have a problem like that, give me a call and we can talk about options that can help you with those kinds of things. All right, so now we've gotten those toes and we've gotten all of that, but what about that midfoot? Now for me particularly, because I'm on my feet a lot, I don't realize how painful this part of my foot can be. So let's go ahead and we're gonna make a fist, make sure your knuckles are sticking out right here, and we're gonna take those knuckles and I'm gonna rub my foot. I'm gonna turn so that you can see that a little better. So I'm just gonna take that and I might find a spot that's super painful. Good, or not even super painful, maybe just a little painful. For me, it's usually right here. So I'm gonna take a little extra time right there. And I'm just gonna rub that part of my foot. Good, and really get into it. Good. You could do this with a tennis ball also. You could roll your foot, putting your foot on the floor, putting your foot on the ball with the ball on the floor. Good, or an iced water bottle sometimes is good too. Good, so kind of getting all the way over. Try the ball of your foot. See how that feels. Give it a rub. Good, but again, if you have those neuromas, sometimes that's painful. And so maybe you don't want to rub too hard if you know that's something that you have. Good, but this exercise right here, this movement right here, rubbing through the fascia of your foot, believe it or not, has connections all the way up into your shoulders. So after we're done today, take a roll of your shoulders. We'll maybe even do it right at the end and see if your shoulders feel better. I know that's kind of weird, but it's true. Good. And then get into that heel. Maybe take your fingers and rub into that heel just a little bit. Rub into the outside of the heel and the bottom of the heel. Good. Good. A little self-massage is really a good thing. Good. All right. And then maybe take those thumbs and let's rub the middle of that foot. Good. Any way that feels good. It could be up, it could be sideways, it could be one thumb one way, one thumb the other. It could be rolling motions, anything that rubs the center of that foot. Good. All right. Now, take that foot, put it next to the other one, and notice the difference in color. The reason for that is that we've oxygenated that foot. By rubbing it, we have called lots of blood into our feet and we've made oxygen a part of that foot more than it was before. And so it changes the color, makes it a little pinker. So I don't know if you can see the difference in mine, but I have one that's slightly purple and one that looks just nice and healthy. So let's go ahead and get to that other foot. I gotta dust mine off a little bit. So again, we start sitting up tall, stretching those toes back. Right here, feeling that good stretch in those toes. Good. So we're feeling the stretch right in here, but also in that fascia of the foot, that plantar fasciitis. That's it right there. This is a good stretch for that. And then let's take it and we're going to go to the top and we're going to stretch those toes back. And wow, for me, this today feels like I really needed it. Make sure we're getting those fingers right up to the tips of your toes so you can bend those toes over and feel that stretch into the toe. Good. Doesn't that other foot, the one that you just worked on, doesn't it feel good? It's kind of tingly and it just feels, mine just feels good. I hope yours does too. All right. Now we're going to take that and we're going to rock it back and forth. Good. So feel how this actually works right up into that Achilles area in the back of that ankle. So we're stretching into that area too. So if you had some issues there, this is a good stretch for that. Good. Now let's hold it one more time. And then hold it down one more time. Good. All right, now remember that toe pull that we did earlier? We're gonna take that hand, we're gonna grab the big toe. So it's the opposite hand, I'm taking it across. So we're gonna grab that big toe, we're gonna pull it and shake it and let that hand kind of slide off. Good. All right, I'm gonna do that big toe twice because that's the biggest toe that I have. Good. Not the longest, but the biggest. All right, and then we're gonna go to that next foot and we're gonna, or next toe, excuse me, and do that next toe. Now, remember, you might get a little crackle and a little crunch. That's normal, it's not a problem, as long as there's not a lot of pain associated with it. Good, and if you have a lot of pain associated with it, maybe it's something we don't wanna do, or we wanna do a little easier or a little less. Good, working down towards that pinky toe or to that little toe. Give it a shake. All the way to that little toe. Good, all right, so now take your hands, we're gonna do one on the top, one on the bottom, and we're gonna push and pull, starting right at the toe joint, right here at the bottom of the big toe, and push and pull. One thing we didn't talk about is bunions. So if you have a bunion, believe it or not, this exercise is also good for bunions. Good. It's going to help release some of the scar tissue buildup, things like that. So partially, you know, we talked about the calcium deposits, but some of that crackling and crunching can actually be your breaking scar tissue that you've built up from little micro fractures, little injuries. Maybe you dropped something on your foot years ago, and your foot built a little scar tissue there. So we're breaking some of that out as well. Good. Maybe we're going to come down a little bit more to the pad of the foot. And what you're really trying to get is just to get that foot to move. You're trying to get it to push and pull because it should. It really should. If you think of the anatomy of the foot, it shouldn't be just static. It should be movable. And it shouldn't be too painful either to do it. Good. All right. All right. Next one, we're going to take those knuckles. And I have my ring, so I'm going to be very careful. I don't want to scratch myself. So we're going to take those knuckles and we're going to start rubbing that foot right through the pad of my foot. And I'm going to, this side is a little more tender, so maybe I might back off a little bit, or maybe I might focus on that one spot that's really tender. I might even stop and just push there a little bit. It's called a pressure point. And sometimes if we do that pressure point, we can get some of those muscles to release or those tendons to let go just a little bit. And just like we talked about earlier, we could actually release and give us some more flexibility in our shoulders when we work on our feet, because everything's connected through this skin underneath that's called fascia. Good. Just like we talked about plantar fasciitis, it's all kind of connected. It's like a Spider-Man suit. It's underneath the skin and it's called fascia, and it's kind of flexible as long as we keep it moving, as long as we massage it. But it's like a chamois cloth. When a chamois cloth gets dry, it kind of shrivels up, right? And when you put water on it, you can stretch it again. Well, the fascia in your body is the same in that when you move it, it's like putting water on that chamois cloth and it makes it stretchable again. All right, now let's take those hands, those thumbs, and we're gonna rub. Maybe we're gonna go to the ball of the foot. Again, watching out for any really, really sore spots. We don't want to ever push on something that's so critically painful that it makes us cry out or tears come to our eyes, right? If it's something that painful, we probably want to avoid it a little bit. Good, and then get into that heel. Good, and maybe the outside of the heel. So we talked in the beginning about we're going to stretch and then we're going to strengthen. So after we're done with this, we're going to work on the strengthening of those feet. I found a little pad here. I hope that you can see my feet and see what I'm doing. If not, just follow the instructions I give and hopefully that will make sense. Good. All right. So let's put those feet on the ground. Take a look again how different color they are. It's so interesting when we bring that blood into the feet, what a difference it makes in the color of our feet. All right, so now the strengthened part of our foot, part of our exercise. I want you to take your feet and I want you to crunch your toes and then open them and wiggle. Good. So crunch your toes and then open them and wiggle. Good. Crunch your toes and open and wiggle. Good. And crunch your toes and open them and wiggle. Now, if we really needed to keep working on our feet on a daily basis, what you could do is throw a towel on the floor and then take your toes and crunch it. So like you'd throw it out flat and then you try to crunch it up with your toes. So let's do that. Pretend you have that towel and I want you to crunch it up with your toes. Crunch it up with your toes. And maybe some of you are getting foot cramps, right? Because this is not an easy thing to do. If that happens, just wiggle a little bit. Or go back to a little foot massage. Good. There's always noises out here and there. All right, so crunch it out. All right, the next one is a little harder. So I want you to put your feet flat on the floor and lift just your big toe. Now you can look at it. Look at it, just lift your big toe, push your other toes into the floor. Good, and bring it down. So push your toes into the floor, just lift that big toe. And then bring it down. I was looking to see if he's coming closer, I hope not. So lift that big toe and bring it down. And lift that big toe and bring it down. I'm going to do it a couple more times because I know it's hard. And some of you maybe couldn't do it in the beginning, but now you're finally getting it, so let's work on it. Just lift that big toe and bring it down. And lift that big toe. Let's do one more. And bring it down. And then lift that big toe. And bring it down. Now I have a hard time with the next one. So just put your big toe on the floor, but lift your other toes. Now you're thinking that is not possible, but it is. And then bring it down. So push your big toe in the floor and just lift your other toes. It's hard. I have a hard time with it too. And then put those toes down. Push that big toe in, lift the other toes. And bring it down. Good. Big toe pushes in, lift those other toes. My big toe came up all by itself. And bring it down. And then push that big toe, lift those other toes. And bring it down. Good. While that airplane comes back, let's just take those feet and wiggle. And roll. Good. Wiggle those toes a little bit. Good. All right. I have one more exercise for those feet and then we'll get to those hands. So I want you to sit up tall, push the ball of your foot into the floor and lift all of your toes. And bring it down. I saved the easiest one for last, right? So push the ball of the foot. You got to really think about pushing the ball of the foot and lifting those toes. And bring it down. Good. Push the ball of the foot, lift the toes. And bring it down. Push the ball of the foot, lift those toes. And bring it down. Let's do one more. Push the ball of the foot and lift those toes. And bring it down. Good. Now march out those feet. Good. I hope they feel good. I hope they feel good. So we have a minute here before we get into those hands. So let's work on a very important part of our foot. Well, it's not part of your foot actually, but it's the thing that helps your foot move, and that's your ankle. So I want you to put your hands on your knees and envision they lock your knees in place. And we're just going to roll those feet to the side of your foot. And then we're going to bring it down. Good. So roll to the side. Notice my knees aren't moving. My knees are staying right where they were. I locked them in. Good. Roll it to the side. And then flatten it out. Roll it to the side. And flatten it out. One more time, roll to that side and flatten it out. Good. All right, so scoot back. We're still going to work that ankle. So we've already done a few ankle circles. We've done, with the assistance of our hands, we've done this kind of motion. But one motion that we haven't done a lot is we're going to turn the feet in and then turn the feet out. So we're working that ankle, stretching and strengthening. Right? You should feel this in the side. And you're wondering, how in the world does she do this? I do this a lot. So it's just commonplace for me. For you, it might be a little harder, right? So we turn them till they face each other, and then we turn them away from each other. Face each other, and then away from each other. Good. Face each other, and then away. One more time. I hope you're feeling a good stretch there. Face each other, and then away. Good. Wiggle those fingers, wiggle your toes. All right. So let's go ahead and start working on our hands. I'm just going to sit forward a little bit so that I'm sure that you can hear me. So just like before, we're going to start with a little stretch, and then we'll do a little strengthen for those hands. So we're going to start taking one hand, and we're going to start with the palm of your hand, and we're just going to massage right into that hand. So massage into there, and just like before, you might find a spot that hurts a little bit, right? So if you do, take a little extra time and massage that, maybe a pressure point where you're pushing on it, trying to release any tension there. Good. If your hands are super dry, I don't know about you, but I need to probably wash them and moisturize. Good. There we go. So really get even into right where that carpal tunnel area is here, right at the base of that wrist. And again, if it hurts to the touch, if it hurts to press it, then maybe we want to press less, or maybe we don't want to do it at all. Good. So really work into the base of each finger and into the base of the thumb. Let's even take that hand and flip over. Now we're going to massage that spot right here between that thumb. We could do it this way, we could do it this way, but massaging that spot right here. Now if you have arthritis, some of this might be painful, so do what works for you, do what feels good. Maybe you even want to grab some lotion if you have it nearby, and that'll make it a little bit easier to get, so that you're not pulling and tugging so much on your skin. Good. All right. So now just like we did with our toes, we're going to start with the thumb. We're going to shake and then let that hand slide off. Good. And you might find that your knuckles crack or crunch a little bit. That's okay. Good. We're just trying to relieve any pressure points that might be in your fingers from jamming them or just previous injuries, that kind of thing. Good. If you had one finger that felt a little tense or tight, maybe you want to go back to it. Good. And then let's just give that hand a little wiggle. So let's stretch a little bit into that carpal tunnel area, very important part of the workings of the hands. So we're going to take the other hand and very gently, I'm not going to push hard at all, I'm just going to stretch it back till I feel a stretch in that wrist. Good. So I just want to feel a good stretch there. Now carpal tunnel is one of those things that if you are acutely painful, you don't want to exercise it at all. So if you're waking up in the middle of the night or having to take Tylenol or Advil 24/7, then you don't want to exercise that joint. You want to let it heal a little bit. But once it comes to the point where it's just a little achy, it's okay to go ahead and start stretching gently. Good. And then let's go this way. So gentle stretches are good if it's a little painful. No stretches if it's acutely painful, if it's waking you up, or if it's causing you to take pain relievers all day long. Good. So now let's do that thumb. We're going to stretch it back. Again, I'm not pulling hard. It's just a gentle stretch. Good. Then we're going to take that thumb and we're going to cross it right here. Good. Let's do that other side. So we're going to stretch it back. Just a gentle stretch. You should feel it in that carpal tunnel area. Good. Then we're going to take that hand and we're going to go right here, stretching here. Get that nice gentle stretch. You gotta love being outdoors at River Landing, right? And then stretch that thumb back. And stretch that thumb forward. Good. And then let's do, I can't remember if we did this, I don't think we did. Let's go ahead and massage that hand. So I kind of started from the back this time. So massage that hand. Find any sore spots, maybe a little pressure. Get down right by that wrist if you can. And then get underneath by those fingers. Really massaging into there. Good. Feeling that good massage. Getting into the palm of that hand. Good. I've actually had an injury in the palm of my hand and it's uncomfortable for me to do that, so I'm going to be gentle here and I'm going to kind of miss the spots that hurt really bad or feel really uncomfortable. I've had surgery on that hand and it's just uncomfortable to do that. Alright, now let's take and we're going to massage that spot right between your thumb. You could either do it this way or this way. Either way is fine. Whichever feels the best. Again, this might be a good spot if you have lotion, to get some lotion so it's a little slipperier. Good. I don't know about you, but I can feel when I'm massaging here, I can feel that right up in my forearm, which is kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to loosen some of those muscles all the way up into those arms as well. And again, this is one of those things that's going to help loosen our shoulders. I know you think it's funny, but it's really the truth. All right, now we take that thumb, we're going to shake it till the fingers slide off. Good. And then all the way down as we go all the way to our pinky. Maybe if you have one finger that seems really tight. And fingers are easy to jam, aren't they? When you were a kid, if you were really active in sports, it was easy to jam your fingers. And so this is something that kind of helps with that a little bit. Just that slide and that shake. Good. All right, and then let's wiggle those fingers here. So we did those good stretches for our fingers, but here's some exercises that'll help us with activities of daily living to keep those small motor skills that we need to do things like pull up our socks, pull up our pants, pick up pills, pick up cookie crumbs, things like that. So we're going to start with a simple stretch here, and then a strengthen by bringing those hands in and squeezing. So I want you to imagine that you're going to open your hands and I'm going to give you a huge marshmallow and I want you to squish it. Good, and then open them up. Good, and then squish. Good, open and squish and open and squish. Good, now let's do individual mini marshmallows. Squish, 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 squish. Good. So I really want you to squeeze into that thumb. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Good. You should feel that into those forearms, right? All right. One more. Good. Now let's give them a good stretch. So bring those hands out. I want you to bring them so the palms are facing the floor and make a fist. Good. Now take them and turn them so the backs of your hands are together. Shoulders are down. We're sitting up tall. We're going to take those hands and bring them down towards your wrist. So see how I'm stretching the top right here? I'm stretching that forearm. I'm stretching down here. I can feel it there as well. And then bring them back towards each other. Let's do that again. Stretch it here. And bring it back. And stretch it down. And bring it back one more time. And bring it back. Now, let's release just a little bit. Let's go up and down right here. Up and down right here. Good. Keep that fist. It's gentle. It's like I'm squeezing cotton. I'm not like I'm fighting here. It's a gentle fist. Good. So you notice now, not only are we stretching through the hands, but we're also stretching a little bit into that carpal tunnel area, and that's important because it's all part of the workings of our hands, right? So now let's work a little bit more on some specific exercises. So if you get trigger finger, if you have trigger finger, if you don't know what it is, be blessed, because it's kind of awful because your finger just doesn't bend anymore. So we're going to work on that just a little bit. So we're going to make a little bit of a claw, hold it here for a count, and then I want you to go and let it go. Good, so make a claw. We're bending each knuckle just a little bit, and then we go, and we let it go. Good, so make that claw, and then let it go. Good, make that claw, and let it go. One more time, make that claw, and let it go. Let's wiggle. Good, all right, now, open up those hands, and I want you to slowly make a fist. So right one knuckle at a time. Bend the top knuckle, bend the next knuckle, bend right at the top there, and then all the way down until you get a fist. Good. Now we're going to come back up, and just the way we started, we're going to go backward. We're going to open up from the knuckle at the base of the fingers, from the middle, and then all the way to the top. Good, now that you know where we're going, we're going to do it again nice and slowly. Bring it down, make that fist, and then starting from the middle, right underneath those fingers, we're going to go up and open. Now we're doing just a couple here. For those of you that have those trigger fingers or those finger issues, you might want to do a set of 5 to 10, 10 to 15, depending upon how it feels and how far you are in your exercise journey with those trigger fingers. But this kind of exercise right here can help arrest that trigger finger so it doesn't get any worse. It can't stop it from happening necessarily, but if you catch it early, you can kind of stop it from getting any worse. All right, now let's take those hands and shake them. Good, I had an instructor that told me shake them until they're blurry. And what this is doing is it's bringing oxygen to our hands, just like we brought oxygen to our feet when we did that massage. We're bringing oxygen into our fingers and our hands here. So if you, in the wintertime, if you get really cold and your fingers start to tingle, shake them. Give them a shake. Get that oxygen in there. Good. Do they feel blurry yet? Do they look blurry yet? Mine do. All right, here we go. So bring those hands together. Let's roll those wrists. I can't believe how fast this time has gone. There's so much more we could do, but we're going to need to wrap it up. So roll right here, working into that carpal tunnel. Good. Let's give it one more good carpal tunnel stretch here by pushing it out, stretching through the fingers as well as that carpal tunnel area. Good. And then let's release it. Here's that shoulder roll. How do those shoulders feel? You know, if you were like me and you sat here for this whole time and your shoulders started creeping up towards your ears, right? That might have made those shoulders a little tighter, a little tense. All right, let's add a big stretch right here, feeling the stretch all the way up into those shoulders, those arms, all the way into the fingers. Good, and then bring those arms around, give yourself a hug and a pat. Oh, crunch those shoulders a little bit forward. Let's do that one more time. The other arm's going to go over the top, so we stretch it out first. Take a breath. Give yourself a hug. The other arm is here, and we crunch it forward just that little bit. Good. Let's take a big deep breath and let it go. One more big deep breath. Bringing those hands to prayer. Thank you so much for joining me today on this little alcove area in Pinehurst. I hope that your hands and feet will feel wonderful today and for the rest of the week. And I hope you remember some of those things to do when you're feeling a little crampy or you're feeling a little tight in those areas. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again very soon in another fun location. Namaste.